everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today and make yourself look good.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be an awesome show tonight. We should be joined shortly by the man of the hour, the Aviation Hall of Fame inductee, Jim Goodall. So can't wait for that. That should be awesome. Hearing from Jim Goodall is a wonderful accolade to have, a feather in your cap, and nobody else deserves it better than Jim Goodall, as we've heard over many, many times. He knows his stuff, and that's the way you get into a place like that, is by knowing your stuff. So as we await the arrival of Jim Goodall, let me go ahead and take a look and see who actually has come in first. Now, this is courtesy of Race Fan. Race Fan says Polly Rotterman comes in tonight with the gold, which is awesome. We have a Race Fan with the silver, and then we got Caddy Whack with that bronze. That's a little different. But welcome. Do appreciate you guys coming on in early for an event like tonight. Should be an awesome show. Polly Rotterman is out there with heart emojis, alien head emojis. So it's Race Fan saying good evening, Rob. Good evening, right back to you, Race Fan. Caddy Whack as well saying hi, Rob. Hey, Caddy Whack. To Mothman in the building saying good evening, Rob and Jim. Good evening to Mothman. Thanks for coming in. Robert Lamoth Jr. stepping in the building saying hello. Hello, Robert Lamoth Jr. We also have Andrew Gnome's Trucking Express. Appreciate you coming on in tonight. Thanks for joining us bright and early. Roger Murray dropping some gems. Happy U.S. National Aliens Day, April 27th, 2013. U.S. Customs Border Control aircraft captured fleet UFO footage. Nice. Thanks for keeping us informed, Roger Murray, as always. We got JSCO 77 in the building. Appreciate showing up. Amanda's Crazy Life channel. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. David Norenberg. Hey, David Norenberg. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate showing up to the show tonight. As well as Adam B. Adam B is in the building. Hey, Adam B. Thanks for coming on in. Who else do we have? Woo Riders DG, Derek Galloway. Thanks for coming on in. And Gizmo. Hey, Gizmo. Thanks for showing up here tonight. JMJ12. Thanks for showing up as well. Lakeside Laura. We'll see you out there. And let's see. Gizmo, the Doug Shelby. Paramarvelous is in the building. FAP is out there. Cosmic Joe Chronicles. I got you this time. For sure. And we're current. So let me go ahead and start the podcast side of this really quickly. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight should be an epic show. We should be joined momentarily by the man of the hour, Aviation Hall of Fame inductee Jim Goodall should be joining us for hours 1 and 2. Then we got Drew Bankey, hour 3, along with Steve Stockton, Tales Untold. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial. Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G, and tonight we're broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. While you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Doll, and oh so much more. Once again, we should be having a fantastic show. We are awaiting the arrival of our guest tonight, Jim Goodall, Aviation Hall of Fame inductee. Big stuff, big news. We'll allow him to be fashionably late because he is the legend, Jim Goodall. So we shall give him that grace here tonight as we await for his arrival. That means I have enough time to say hello to a couple other people out there in the audience, which is Ethanol stepping in, and I do appreciate you stepping on in. Let's see, who else do we have? Who else stepped in at the very last minute? It'll be Ethanol and let's see. Make sure I said Cosmic Joe. I'm gonna say it twice because Cosmic Joe seems to think that I forget about him all the time. No, I got you, Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Appreciate you coming on in. As well, Arlene Atkins Zell. Appreciate you. Said saw Jim in the title, had to join in. Yeah, and we are awaiting the arrival of Jim Goodall right now. He has everything he needs to join the show. Hopefully everything is going great on his end. And we should be joined pretty soon here. Let me see who else has stepped in. Kathy Evans. Kathy Evans has stepped in the building. Appreciate you, Kathy Evans, for coming on in. Let's see. D-Doug show me, hey, y'all, can't be missing Jim Goodall. Not at all, not at all. And like I said, it's an epic day. I'm just can't wait to get into the show. Like I said, as soon as he gets here, we'll shower him with accolades and give him high fives and all sorts of things. I know you guys will do that in the chat. You guys are so wonderful to do that, and I know that you will. The moment that we get Jim here in the building, let's see. Man, this Crazy Life channel. Rob, love the intro as always. Appreciate that. You know, a show has to have a feeling, a mood to it, and that's my mood, kind of. You know what I mean? So appreciate you pointing that out. Who else do we have out here? Let's see. Looking back here, because you got to get through so quickly. Sometimes you skip over people. I just want to make sure that we didn't do that because we do have a little bit of extra time here. We do have Moody Mungle stepping in late here saying, what's up, Rob G? Watching from the bed. It's 4 a.m. here in the UK. Yo, can't believe that. Did you watch the recent release of the Bluegill Prime and Starfish Prime nuclear test footage, which shows a falling UAP from the blast? If you're talking about the historic footage back when they were doing the nuclear testing, I believe I've seen that. There's so many different videos that are supposedly out there. For instance, I don't know if that's the same one. Well, no, it's not, because the other one that I'm thinking of is where they shot off a dummy nuclear weapon, and you had the UFO that came into frame. Supposedly, I've never personally seen this video, but they've talked about it, and they talk about how the UFO comes into frame and kind of shoots a laser, goes around, shoots another laser, all while in mid-flight, shoots another laser, and then this thing comes, the dummy warhead comes tumbling down from the sky. So I've heard about that. I believe I've heard about this one as well. And you would have to think that, when you get into the pulse that you get from a nuclear blast, it would make sense that it could interfere even in some technology that we may not understand. You could see how there may be some sort of, how you could anticipate potentially there being some sort of effect there. And yeah. But as far as that goes, haven't really looked into it. Maybe that's something I'll do here with the time off that we'll have as well. And while we're actually talking about time off as well, let me let you know what's going on here. So we have coming up is the SOR. We canceled the fan party name from it, but it's a meetup. It's a meetup with Spaced Out Radio hosts and people behind the scenes, along with you, the viewer. This time is going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, and that will run from the 1st of May through the 4th. So programming on this channel, the way that it will go will be, I believe Dave is in for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday will be the last day of programming until the following Monday. Because, in that in between time, we will be in Las Vegas, Nevada, hopefully hanging out with you guys. Hopefully not just hanging out with you guys, but also getting the chance to fulfill one of the dreams that I have, which is to actually make it to the fence line of Area 51. I was there. I was literally right there 5 or 6 years ago, and at the black mailbox, and right there, Groom Lake Road. Started driving down that road. I was on my way, and my girl told me she got scared. Middle of the day, mind you, not nighttime. This is the middle of the day. She got scared and wanted to turn around and go back. So I couldn't really do anything. It was just her and I in the car taking that trip. So yeah, that happened. And she, I told her, I was like, hey, we'll do this time because I understand how you're feeling about this. This is, there's no turning back once we go down this road. I mean, there is turning back, but for her, in her mind, she doesn't know what's going to happen at the end of this road. And so I told her, I was like, okay, that means you have to agree to come back with me at a later date. So we'll come back at a later date. And she agreed, but it seems like we'll be doing this with Spaced Out Radio first. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I know Dave Scott talked about crying or shedding tears the last time that he had actually gone up there, or the only time that he had actually gone up there. So I don't know if I'll be doing all that. I don't know if I'll be doing the whole tear thing, but it would be a powerful moment because that literally 10, 15 miles from the fence line, there's no way that you could never run through the gate. You couldn't even drive through the gate and make it anywhere close to anywhere where they are actually doing something at Area 51 successfully. So with that being said, there's the wonder, the mystery when Bob Lazar talks about going out, taking people out there in the middle of the night on, I think Wednesdays is when he said they were doing test flights. And just imagine, because I've been out there when it's nighttime as well, and it's just the desert. It's pitch black dark. You can't see anything around you. And just imagine knowing that, anticipating that there would be something that would appear, that would show up there like clockwork, almost like the New Jersey drones kind of, but just all the history there and everything that's happened. And I don't know. I intend on stopping by the Little Alien, uh, which is where everybody stops at. But I think also what that is, and if you haven't seen the Little Alien, it's this little restaurant. It's in Rachel, and it's the only restaurant there because Rachel is literally that restaurant and maybe two or three trailers out there. That list is literally what Rachel is if you look it up on a map. And it's the only town that's like right outside of Area 51. If you go, I want to say you're going west. If you go west from Rachel, you go into the middle of nowhere. If you go east, you go into the middle of nowhere. So it's literally the only thing sitting there. And they have this, what they are calling a weather station, or I don't know exactly what they called it, but it's something that's supposed to be related to monitoring the weather. But this little tower is probably about 15-20 foot tower that sits in front of the little alien, and it has a camera on it. So the theory is that it is just masking itself as a tower, and essentially this camera has a feed that goes back to Area 51. That way, when you're coming in, before you even get anywhere near the gate, they already know who's here, who's in town, who's in the area, based on that camera right there. And they have things. If you've ever been to the Las Vegas casinos down there, they have facial recognition, which has been in play forever. You can go into some of these retail outlets have facial recognition software as well, but supposedly it has facial recognition software, takes pictures and video of your license plate as you come in to the Little Alien, which is supposed to be like this tourist spot. You go in there, you talk to the people there, they gather all this information on you before you get anywhere near the gate. So assuming that that's what they're doing with that, and that's still what they're doing, then they'll know that Space Out Radio is there long before we ever even make it to the gate. And I don't know. I don't know if they've watched enough of these shows. Maybe that's a cool thing, or maybe it's not. But they will know for sure. Not only that, there's a guy, and I don't want to say his name wrong. He was I know his name is Chuck, and he used to live in Rachel for a time. He worked with the guy who was doing a website on Area 51. God, I know all of you guys know both of these guys' name, and I'm just saying this off the head right now, but he went out into the desert surrounding Area 51 and just the place. I mean, we're talking about this BLM, which is Bureau of Land Management, which is public land that you and I, anyone, if you're from the United States, you can go out there, you can post up, pop your tent, set up your tent, you can sit there and camp wherever you would like, anywhere where it's considered Bureau of Land Management property, which is pretty much everywhere in the desert. And they're not supposed to, but they have actually set up sensors and all sorts of monitors throughout that desert that kind of alert them at the presence of anything. So if you happen to be walking through there, they have vibration detectors that can detect your footsteps as you walk through the desert. And they have these things placed all over the place, all over the desert, right? So that's not legal, though. That's the thing. You would think, okay, well, what's wrong with that? No, it's not legal. It's not legal for them to do that. So this gentleman, I will just call him Chuck. I'll have to look up his name. He, back in I want to say the late 90s, kind of took a video camera out there and showed himself uncovering one right there, right under the surface of the dirt. And apparently this thing came up missing. And so the United States government recently there was there was a raid on his friend's property. Arnu, I think the guy's last name was like Arnu or something like that. He ran this Area 51 website, which is still up right now. But Jorg Arnu, I think is his name. However, they go and they they're linked together. So they go and they raid his house, and this is all interconnected because what it came out to be was they thought that one of them had the property on them, the sensor, and they wanted the sensor back. Also with Arnu, they kicked in his door. The feds did. This was like in 2022, and he came out on the news like, I don't know why they're doing this. I just run this website, and yeah, sometimes I show pictures of Area 51 and different things on my website, but it was not intended to, if all they had to do was ask me and I would take them down, anything that they kind of didn't approve of. But the story came out later that what he had actually done was flew a drone, which he didn't say this. This came out in the story later on down the line that he had actually flown a drone in the area of Area 51, and that's what they ended up looking for. They did a simultaneous raid. They raided his trailer in Rachel. They raided his home in Las Vegas. They did all of it at one time, and he went on the news trying to raise money for this fundraise to kind of offset the damages and things of that nature. And but it turned out that he actually may have been involved in actually doing something he wasn't supposed to do, right? So that's what that is. Yeah. So Area 51, and they have the camo dudes out there. If you know anything about the camo dudes, they kind of overstep their boundaries too. I don't know if it's like a misdirection thing, because it seems like that's what it is. Because you would think, if you were looking at this, you would think that all of the things that Bob Lazar talked about them doing there on site or at S4, which is a little further south than Area 51, you would think they would have moved all that stuff, right? And that's what a lot of people believe to this day, is that they're no longer doing those sorts of things there. So why the overwhelming pressure to keep people away still to this day? Is that misdirection? Is that them trying to keep you focused on Area 51 when actually everything is moved onto this next facility? Likely, right? Very likely. Or is it that they are still doing things there at Area 51 and they're just literally trying to keep you away and keep you out? They haven't moved anything. Everything is still there. It would be too much logistics to move all the projects that they've been working on there to another facility. I could see that being possible, because before Area 51 was even named as a facility or even officially acknowledged, you still had people there. You still had people coming to the perimeters of the facilities, and since the 90s, just a few years after Bob Lazar came out. And as you'll find, once we do get our guest here for the night, Jim Goodall is good friends with Bob Lazar. And even prior to Bob Lazar coming out and talking about any of this, and Jim Goodall was also a part of a group called the Interceptors Crew, which was a group of individuals, which he still is a part of today, that actually went out and would often go out to these test ranges to try to film top secret craft, like craft that had not been announced yet. And they were successful in doing that. They actually filmed the F-117 Nighthawk, which we know is the stealth fighter, right? The first stealth craft. And With that being said, they had groups like gyms that would be in the area of Area 51. They would, and I'm sure there's other groups that were doing something similar to what Jim Goodall's group was doing. Plus, you just had people who were curious and just wanted to come out and see if they could see any of the things that Bob Lazar was talking about. So I don't know. Has there really ever been? If you go there right now, you will likely run into tourists, even though this is so far in the middle of the desert and so far off the map that you would think that you wouldn't run into anyone. However, you can literally go there, I would think, at any time of the day or night, and you'll probably run into a tourist at the black mailbox or even at the gate taking pictures and things of that nature. So, point being is that it would seem that it's been very busy since the 90s. When would there ever be a time that they would be able to get all of those projects out of Area 51? Bob Lazar says there was 13 hangars, I think he said, 13 different hangar doors over at S4, and they each had some sort of project in there. There's been talks about the things that they have below ground. So when you think about if you take everything that's been said and you put it all together, would they have ever had time to move all this stuff out of there? Or is that stuff potentially still there? I don't know. You got to ask yourself. And, and I happen to know someone. I haven't kind of went down this path yet, but apparently, I'm what, 200 some odd miles from Las Vegas right now. So any given moment, I'm in Vegas, right? There is apparently, and I have to look further into this. I don't know what, if anything, would come from this or could come from this based on NDAs and things of that nature. But apparently, there's someone that's close within my family circle. And when I say that, I mean my family out in Las Vegas, that one of their friends, very close friends, works currently at Area 51. This is what I've been told. I haven't had a chance to really look further into it to see what's going on. Although I do plan to at least ask some questions just so we could kind of flesh that out. And then, at least at the very least, maybe get some opinions on what this person thinks is still going on out there, if anything at all. This person may say, I'm out there all the time, I don't see anything. Right? There's definitely nothing going on. So I don't know. That's something that I'm looking at. Something that I think we might be able to at least have someone to give us some insight on Area 51 and if or what is actually going on over there. So what we're going to do right now as we get the show together, get ready to hopefully get our guest in here. I don't know if he thought we were going a little later tonight because I know Dave's show normally starts at 9. So I'm hoping that he didn't think we were starting at 9 tonight. However, whenever we get him in here, it's going to be an awesome show. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to go to our first break of the night. Normally, this break is on camera, but I'm going to take this one off camera so we can go ahead and check on our guests, make sure everything's copacetic. And with that being said, first 30 minutes going by fast. And I'm glad we were able to get to talk there for a moment. So I'll be right back right after this break on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. You guys don't go anywhere. We will be back with our guests. I promise you. Jim Goodall, Aviation Hall of Fame inductee, joining us shortly. All right, be right back, guys. Welcome back, Spaced Out Radio. We are on the back half of hour number one. Step out for a second and tip to contact our guest tonight. It's very concerning, worrying to me that Jim Goodall has not stepped in the building as of yet. Normally he is very early for the show, and tonight he is not. So hopefully, Jim Goodall, you are out there. Somebody that has his direct line, his direct number, gives him a shout and says, "Hey, you're on Spaced Out Radio tonight," and maybe we'll get him to drop in here shortly. But I have put some hooks out there because we definitely would like to see, or at least have confirmation everything's okay over there with Mr. Goodall. As we get ready to start back on the show right here, right now, let's go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show, back half of hour one. Still in hour one, awaiting our guest, our man of the hour tonight, Mr. Jim Goodall, who has recently been inducted into the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame. I would love to shower some accolades on this gentleman tonight, the legend, right? Make sure you stay right where you're at. I think we'll get him pretty soon. I really feel optimistic about that as we go ahead and jump back into some more conversation here. So we talked about Area 51, which Jim Goodall has a good history with. Something I also want to have him shine with tonight, because, as I said before, when it comes to Black projects, and that's why whenever we have the Black project conversation, he's definitely someone great to lean on, because I think he could probably confirm, and I'm not wanting to speak for him, that when we have situations like New Jersey drones, right, and anyone who just thinks that that's government tech and them allowing us to see this tech out in the wide open, I think from Jim's research and what Jim has done, he can tell you that you have to know where these things are going to show up at. They're just not going to sit here in front of you night after night after night after night. And maybe he has a different opinion. Like I said, I don't want to speak for him, but I would think just on the surface of that, when you have groups like the group that he's involved with that literally has to go out to these remote areas, test areas, in order to attempt to capture something that's being tested, right? So how does it ever go from that, which was only 30 years ago, to them displaying tech directly in front of the world for a 2-month period? Like, do those things add up? Do those things make sense? I don't think that they do. So that's one of the reasons why, in being able to lean on someone that has had history doing things like this, you can kind of formulate some ideas or answers on what's currently going on, which is one of the things I always say. History is a good indicator, or at least a measure to weigh up against what it is we're dealing with in the present, or things that we might deal with in the future. Now, with that being said, another thing I wanted to do as well is, because not only had Jim Goodall been announced to the inducted to the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame, but we also had the announcement on the show recently. Dave Scott announced both of these things, that Science Bob was stepping into a role with Skywatcher, which I think is awesome. A lot of people have mixed feelings out there. I'm still right here where I put together a show for Skywatcher, and I'm still going to go through with it. But I do want to point out some of the things that I like about this thing. So Skywatcher has, it appears to me, just from what I can tell, and I'm obviously on the outside just like everyone else, looking in at this new group. A lot of people want to compare it to like a UAPX or one of these other groups, and that didn't turn out so well. TTSA, things of that nature, right? I don't know. I feel a little bit different about Skywatcher. has nothing to do with the people involved, has nothing to do with the fact that Jake Barber is this whistleblower, has nothing to do, like, I don't feel like there is any additional benefit to him being a whistleblower that really helps or doesn't help the movement. I think what ends up happening is you have a group of individuals that are okay with taking this down the right road as far as steps that we should be taking to verify, to validate what it is that we're dealing with, classifying it. I think they have like 7 or 8 different classes that they have put these things in, and not wanting to kind of rush to bringing these things out to the public, because as they stated, there have been a lot of those things that have been rushed to the public that have been pretty much debunked immediately. And it's like, okay, well, instead of having that sort of reputation for bringing out things that are easily debunked, which means you probably aren't doing your due diligence into bringing the things to the table, that they take a little bit longer and run it through these systems, these classes, and if they pass all these tests, then they stand behind it. Okay, I can get behind that, even though I don't know that you could use that measure for everything. But not only that, but they've also developed the classes, like I was stating earlier. So like 6 or 7, 8, 9 different classes for these UFOs. And I feel good about it because one of those classes actually is completely describes my UFOs and the behaviors. So they said specifically for my class of UFO, which I think I don't even want to misquote that. It was like class 1 or class 2, but they were often seen in groups of like 20 or more, is what they stated. And I'm like, okay, that aligns with my data. And if I'm, wanting to take my data to the next level, this is something I would weigh it against. I don't think any of these other outlets have done anything like that at this point, right? And so I see that benefit there to what they're doing. And then now the Science Bob is a part of that. It's gonna, I think it's gonna be a nice fit. We'll see. We'll see as more comes out, and hopefully we'll be able to get Science Bob on to talk about that. But what I'm going to do, as you may have heard the Duke in the background, which means we have been joined by the person, the man, the legend, the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame inductee, all of the above. Ladies and gentlemen, stand up and give it up for Mr. Jim Goodall. Jim Goodall.
Hey, how's it going? I got to turn some lights down. It's too bright right now. So.
Jim, the great one, Goodall. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that Stu Brown from Popular Science gave me that handle years ago, and I've used it ever since. So it's been this has been an absolutely crazy, insane day and week, and I'm gonna go in. I have to go into settings and change, do a reverse image. Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. All right. Camera. All right. Yeah, that's my that is something I wasn't expected. I am absolutely thrilled, beyond whatever. The Minnesota Air National Guard is really quite an incredible organization, and I'm proud to be part of it. I have I'm gonna turn this light off, see if that helps. Yeah, it helps some. And one of the very first members of the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame that I'm now partnered with because I'm in the same class he is Charles Lindbergh. Charles Lindbergh was born in Little Falls, Minnesota, which is right in the middle of the state. I think it's in Todd County. It's the poorest county in the state. And Minnesota has a tremendous amount of aviation history. And that's part of what I was very, very proud to be part of with the Minnesota Air National Guard. And it was fun. Of the 7 inductees, I was the only one that's not a pilot, which cracks me up. And of the other 5 Minnesota people, not counting Charles Lindbergh, they're Minnesota Air Guard people that are inducted into the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame. All of them are general officers except for me. I'm a master sergeant. So I hang around with some fun people. And I really apologize for being late. I had it down at 9 p.m. I'm supposed to be in West Coast time because everybody else went to daylight savings time and we don't. So I went from mountain time to West Coast time, and that's why I apologize. I hate being late and punctual. I have a very important person that's on the other end that has been taking up my time. I can't say who it is, but everybody knows his name. So
I like that.
And it's not Bob Lazar.
So, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's something equally as exciting and equally as interesting. So.
Well, that's awesome. Now, everybody was going to wait for you here. I knew it had to be the time thing. That's probably what it was, and we're just glad to have you here.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Rob. I just Thursday I'll be in Vegas.
Yes,
I'll be there. I'll be there Thursday night and Friday night. I don't know about Saturday night. So
well, I want to read this. I want to read this for the audience here because radio audience doesn't know we have up a graphic that is on Minnesota. On the Minnesota Hall of Fame, Aviation Hall of Fame.org website. And it just says 2025 Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame inductees announced. And it says, posted on June 11th, 2024, the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame proudly announces its 2025 inductees, celebrating a distinguished group of aviators and aerospace pioneers whose contributions have significantly shaped Minnesota's rich aviation heritage. This year's honorees include accomplished pilots, aviation advocates, and visionary leaders whose dedication and achievements have left an indelible mark on the field of aviation. The class of 2025 inductees are Randall S. Korfman, aviation medical examiner, led the effort to create the Minnesota Pilots Association, an organization which promotes aviation through advocacy, education, outreach, and social activities. You had Mark R. Baker, president and CEO of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, an advocate and champion of causes for general aviation throughout the United States. You have Robert D. Cabana, United States Marine aviator and NASA astronaut, flew 4 space shuttle missions, one of which was to begin assembly of the International Space Station, which I think is in trouble right now. And you have right after that, James C. Goodall, a founding member of the Minnesota Air Guard Museum, historian, photographer, and the author that has written over 29 books. And one of the ones that I'm not at home right now, but I would show you, like I always do, the Skunk Works book, which is on our thumbnail here tonight. Also, Amanda M. Lee, naval aviator and fighter pilot flying the FA-18 Super Hornet, first woman demonstration pilot for the U.S. Navy Blue Angels in their 78-year history. Clarence J. Krutz, World War II bomber pilot flying the B-26, built Skyport Lodge in Grand Marais, I think.
Grand
Marais, okay. Leader in aviation in remote northern Minnesota. Then you have Nicholas Bernard Mamer, an aviation pioneer, barnstormer, air mail service pilot, air race pilot, and Northwest Airways pilot. He developed the major route to the Pacific Northwest from Minnesota. Join us in honoring these trailblazers at our annual induction ceremony. We celebrate. Okay, so this just happened. The ceremony was on the 12th of April.
Yeah, it was April 12th. It was about 850 people. It was just, when that white screen's up, it really illuminates my face.
Do this right where it says settings at the bottom of your screen. Click that.
Okay.
And in the box that pops up, go to general.
I have settings. I have audio and have virtual background.
You don't have. Okay. Okay. There's a way to turn this into dark mode where it instead of being white, it goes dark. Yeah. So, but you don't have that. It looks like.
No.
You can lower the brightness on your. Are you on a Windows PC?
No, I'm on a Mac.
On a Mac. Okay. You should be able to go to your brightness slider and just slide your brightness down.
All right. I got to find here we go. All right. Sound focus. So how you been?
I've been good. I've been really good. I've been just really, ecstatic ever since hearing that you were inducted. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like the logical next step based on the work that you put in here. And really what I wanted to do tonight is allow you to just take everyone, especially people who don't know where you started, and kind of just lead them all the way up to the Hall of Fame induction and kind of,
starting from when I'm 5 and go.
Starting from when you were 5, just the whole.
All right. Just so you know where I'm starting from. I just turned 80 in March, so
Happy belated birthday.
I've been around the planet 80 times, or around the sun, I should say, and my love for all things machines, I think I was born with. But when I was about 5 years old, we were living in San Jose, California, and I'd already gone to bed, but it was still light outside. And my dad came into the bedroom and he said, "I don't know what's coming, but you got to see it." So I got out of bed, went outside and looked over the Coast Mountains, and over the Coast Mountains of Central California, the Bay Area, came not one, not two, but 24 Convair B-36s. That's a 260-foot wingspan, 6 28-cylinder R-4360s pushing instead of pulling, and 4 jet engines. They had been in Guam as a show of power for the North Koreans and the Chinese during the beginning of the Korean War. So fast forward from 5 to about age 10, my best friend, his dad is the commander of Moffett Field Naval Air Station. At the time in 1950, they had about 400 aircraft there, both anti-submarine, EC-131 or EC-121, excuse me, and then all the fighters and attack aircraft that Navy had in its inventory in 1955 timeframe. And Danny had called me up at home and he said, "I got something so cool to show you at the big hangar, which is Hangar 1. So I said, "Jump on your bike, come over to the gate, have the guards give the house a buzz, and I'll come and get you." So that's exactly what I did. So made it to the gate, and it's about a 2-mile ride on my bicycle, and I did that. That was just a short trip for me, and we were always referred to as Danny Smith and that friend of his, and it was Captain Smith's son and that friend of his, and so we're riding our bikes. We went over to where the snack bar was and got something to eat first, and then we headed over to the big hangar. We were around so much, we were invisible, and we had we just took our bikes right down the middle of the hangar, no one even looked up when these two kids are riding their kids down to the far end. And at the far end, which is closest to the bay, there was an area that was cordoned off with black curtains and a keep out. No use of deadly force authorized, no restricted area, just keep out. And there was nobody there. So we parked our bikes. He pulled the curtains back. I looked in there, and that was the prototype X F-104 Starfighter. That was with they call it the missile with the man in it. And the world hadn't really seen it yet because it was still secret. And we walked around it. I'm bright and shiny. It had been in the NASA wind tunnels there at the Ames, NASA Ames complex. It wasn't NASA back then. It was NACA. But we walked around, and then Danny looked at me and gave me that double dog dare. Hey, get in the cockpit. Okay. So we put the boarding ladder up, opened the canopy. I get in. We close the canopy. Danny latches it. That was a problem. And I'm in there for about 2 minutes, and I realize I'm sitting on an ejection seat. I started getting nervous. Yeah, I'm a 10-year-old kid. So I was starting to sweat a little bit, and I said, well, I got to get out. So I reached over to pull the handle. I wasn't strong enough. Danny wasn't strong enough. I'm stuck in the cockpit of this secret airplane, and I can't get out. So Danny had to go get some maintenance guys. They got the shore patrol over there. They had Marine guards there. We had some Lockheed people there, and his dad, Captain Smith, commander of Moffett Field Naval Air Station. And that was 70 years ago. And my butt still hurts because we got our fanny chewed up one side, down the other, and then spit out and chewed up again. So it was, but it was the beginning of my passion for Lockheed Skunk Works airplanes. So fast forward to March 10th, 1964. I'm an airman second class, which is an E3. I'm TDY at Edwards Air Force Base from Lowry Air Force Base in Denver to help support 3 aircraft programs on ground-based telemetry. The North American XB-70, which I never did see fly, the YC-141, the Lockheed YC-41 Starlifter, and then a classified project. And I didn't know what that classified project was. I know on Saturday morning, February 29th, something landed at Edwards Air Force Base and somehow set off the fire alarm system at about 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning. Of course, everybody who had a line badge jumped in a vehicle and off they went. I had a line badge, and I went out to get my truck and had to see what the heck that was. And someone had already taken it because there was like 4 or 5 of us, communications guys in the TDY barracks. So that was, it wasn't until 10 days later, it wasn't until 10 days later that I actually had an opportunity to see it. I had worked a lot of overtime, and you don't get paid overtime in the military. They give you comp time for overtime. And I had most of the week off. So Tuesday afternoon, I'm at the Northrop ramp. They had a shuttle plane. It was a Piaggio gull wing pusher type that flew from Edwards Air Force Base into LA and at Hawthorne, where Northrop is located. So we're waiting for the airplane to load, and I hear this roar, and debris is being blown all the way across the fence line, the dry lake bed. So I went running down to see what it was, and I looked towards the XB-70 test pad. Of course, the XB-70 hadn't arrived yet. And there was, at first I thought it was the X-15, black fire coming out of the back, incredible noise. But then I realized the people were too small. And then they said, hey, we're loading. So I ran back up, jumped in the airplane. We took off. We took off right over Rogers Dry Lake, and we banked over whatever this black airplane was, and I looked down on top of it.
Conversations that move the
It's all right there, Jim Goodall. As we go into our first break of the night, Jim Goodall gets into history right here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back.
Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are clear, and we're off camera for about 5 minutes, Jim. See you in about 5
Okay.
minutes.
Okay.
All right. right. Welcome back, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G.
I'm here. I just got up for a second.
By our guest here, Jim Goodall, and I'm bringing you right back up here. Right now, we got about 20 seconds left before we come back from radio, and
I'm here.
Jim Goodall, the man with the plan, is here. And we are jumping back in the show. 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Space Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show, after hour number 2. Being joined back with the legend, the great one, Goodall, Aviation Hall of Fame inductee. Man, it like I said, we can only hope to achieve anything close to that as we live through our lives and attempt to make things work out. It's going to be a great conversation, a great time here with Jim as always. Guys, make sure you don't go anywhere as we jump right back into the show. I know you were right in the middle of a story there, Jim. If you wanted to pick it back up, you could.
Yeah, I think I was at Edwards, and it was March 10th, 1964. It was at 3:15 in the afternoon. Also military time, 15 hours. And I saw this. The Piaggio took off, headed down the taxiway right over the dry lake bed, and took off over used the dry lake bed, and we banked over the Blackbird. They had just shut down the engines, and about the same time as we were flying directly over and banked. So I'm looking straight down on this airplane. Again, no camera in my hand. Of course, there was no such thing as a smartphone with a camera in it. I looked down on it, and I couldn't believe my eyes. And it's affected me the rest of my life. I mean, that's 63 years ago. 63 years ago. And everything I have done since is all, and my direction has all been because of that. And if it wasn't for that fact, you wouldn't know who I am. I wouldn't be into UFOs. I wouldn't know my good friend John Lear. I wouldn't know Bob Lazar. I wouldn't know John. I mean, the list goes on and on. I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't know Dave Scott. There I am I'm at Edwards. I'm at Beale there. And that's my hero shot. We were helping the guys from the Hill Aerospace Museum take apart the SR-71C trainer. So when we came to take apart our A-12, I already knew what all the pitfalls were. It took them 6 weeks to cut the wings off and get it ready for transport. And it took our guys 2.5 days. So that's the difference between active duty and the Guard of Reserve. We have guys with a lot of talent, and that same talent has been at the same base for 30 or 40 years that they were part of the Minnesota Guard or any Air Guard or Army, any Air Guard or Air Force Reserve person. So my passion has done nothing but to increase. And so because of what I've done, I became friends with the late Ben Rich, who was the president of the Skunk Works. He had replaced Kelly Johnson. He had we talked, and he initiated it, but we spoke about once a quarter for 25 years, probably closer to 23 years than 25 years. And I don't know how I ever got on his list of special people that he liked, but he really liked me. He said he just enjoyed John Anderson. John was from Testers. He came out with the Bob Lazar sports model, the first 148 scale YF-12 and SR-71. And I got him to do a C-130E in Minnesota Air Guard marking. So John was my buddy. I mean, we spoke all the time. And it's just one thing led to another. And I started pulling stuff. Everybody I knew that was in Blackbirds, I was trying to get what they knew. I ended up interviewing all but one of the pilots that crashed the airplane that survived. Now they built 50 Blackbirds. they crashed 20 of them. And out of those 20, there were only 4 fatalities. Ray Torek drowned in the Pacific because he had a broken arm and couldn't get in his life raft after he had to eject. Walt Ray was kind of a short guy, and they had modified his ejection seat, and he ran out of gas at 90,000 feet over in the middle of nowhere near Pinoche, Nevada. He bailed out successfully. The airplane, they say the Blackbird has, with no power, has the same aerodynamic characteristics as an unpowered toolbox. I mean, it just drops like an anvil. And there was a few other, Jim Zare was a backseater, and Bill Parks. Oh, God, my mind is fried right now. But I had interviewed everybody except for the guy who crashed 978, and that was Colonel Denny Bush. He didn't like me. I had inquired. I had called him up at the Pentagon, and I had tracked his name down, because I had used one of our guard computers and contacted him, asked him if he would be if he'd be willing to let me interview him, and he said no. I thought that was unkind of him. I had I'm trying to put it in the right context, but for whatever reason, he didn't like what I did. And I'd asked him if I said, okay, just give me the day. I know it's May of 70, May of 71, I think it was. And he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't give me any confirmation. So and he hung up on me. So I called a buddy of mine who was at Kadena, Tom Long. He's a captain. He was in the Intel group. He was a photo analyst for Blackbird U2 and KH-11 imagery. So I called him up. He was at Kadena, and I said, "Hey, do me a favor. Can you track down when there was a Blackbird crashed on landing at Kadena?" So he got the information. It only took him about 2 minutes. Got back to me, said, "Fine." So I called up Colonel Bush's office again. The secretary answered the phone, and I said, "Ma'am, is Colonel Bush available?" I said, "No, he's in a meeting." I said, "Will you please do me a favor? Will you please tell him the date in question is the 30th of July, 1971. I said, "What is that date?" Now, I may have said the wrong number because it's been a long day. And he said, "He'll know what it means." And about 5 minutes later, she called me back on Autobahn, and she says, "I don't know what that date meant, but Colonel Bush was not pleased." So I've always had a habit of pushing the envelope. But in August of 1989, Ben Rich called me at home, and he said, "Jim, I have it from the horse's mouth." He wasn't going to say the horse's rear, but I'll say the horse's mouth. He said, "I have it directly from the horse's mouth that the Blackbirds aren't going to make it through Congress. And if anybody could scrounge one, it's you." So I said, "It's quite a compliment coming from the president of the Skunk Works." So I drove over to the guard base, got on the DSN network because we didn't have cell phones and long distance calls were expensive. And I called the New York Air Guard out of that flew this, had the C-5s, 105th airlift wing. And secretary answered, and I said, "Yes, ma'am. This is Sergeant Goodall with the 133rd, which is the 133rd Airlift Wing." I was a wing historian on. He said, "Is the general available?" I said, "Just a minute, Sarge. I'll put you through." And General Weaver gets on the phone and said, "Sarge, what can I do for you?" I said, "General, I have a question. I have a proposition. How would the New York Air Guard like to move the world's fastest airplane in a couple of their C-5s?" Dead silence for about 10 seconds. Said, "You mean the Blackbird?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "When you're ready, you call, we'll haul." So to put it in context, when Arnie Gunderson, who was Mr. J-58, when he was trying to get a Blackbird for West Palm Beach, he had contacted Air Force to see if he could lease a C-5. And they said, yes, it's $967,000 a day plus gas. And I scrounged 2 C-5s for 8 days each, plus $100 million CIA spy plane. I'm the scroungingest NCO in the United States military. and one thing led to another. I mean, we finally got the okay, and I headed over to Palmdale. I lived in Minnesota at the time, and I headed over to Palmdale, and I went to their security office, which is outside the perimeter. And I walk in there, and there's no one at the desk, but there's a buzzer, and I can tell there's people behind the wall. Their door was open. Their door was open to the lobby, and I hit the buzzer, and a female voice says, "Who's there?" I said, "Jim Goodall." Dead silence. "The Jim Goodall?" I said, "Well, there's 5 of us. 2 of them aren't around anymore. My grandfather, my dad. You have me, my son James." At the time he was, 12 or 13, something like that. And my grandson James. So, but I'm probably the one you're referring to. So she comes around the corner. Her name was Glenna Farley. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, you're not the 800-pound gorilla you've been made out to be." I said, "Well, thank you." He said, "I've been at the Skunk Works in security for 21 years. I heard your name the week I was employed." And I said, "Well, it's probably because I had a conversation with Ben Rich." And he said, "Well, that's probably it." Because every time I called or Ben called, it had to be logged in. And she said, I heard your name at least once a quarter for the 21 years I've been here at the Skunk Works." So with that, she gave me the pass to go see. I think it was Lanny Jenkins was the general manager there, and he was happy to see me, and he showed me around. And then we got on one of the cars there at Palmdale, and we drove over to where all the Blackbirds were stored outside. They were just randomly parked out in the dirt, and there was my airplane, number 128, and everything just sort of came together the way it was supposed to come. And our team came out initially on the 10th of October of 1991, and by the time we left on the 13th, in 2.5 days, we had dismantled the airplane to look as it's looking right there. Wings cut off. I mean, it just breaks your heart. Here is one of the most gorgeous airplanes that ever to fly, and we had to abuse it and cut its wings off. I mean, it's just it's blasphemy. But the guy on the tug, his name was Mike, and I don't recall his last name. He was a Skunk Works guy, and he moved Blackbirds and everything around all over the place. And as we're going over to pick up the airplane, this is before we cut it apart, he said, "Who are you anyway?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the word came down from corporate that we're to treat you with royalty, our whole team." And I just sort of smiled, and I said, "Well, that's because Ben Rich is a friend of mine." And he just said, "Oh, didn't know that." So it started a process that led to me having this airplane as my charge for 15 years. And after I had in 2000, beginning of 2010, I left the mainland of America and moved to Hawaii as the curator for the Pacific Aviation Museum of Pearl Harbor. But the whole everything about it has been fun. But the part of securing the Blackbird and being very, very close to Ben, I also had a passion for everything that flies out of the Skunk Works. And this was 1989, which was the year that that I saw an F-117 for the first time. In November of 90. When the heck am I at? My mind is just went blank. But there we are. We're getting ready to load into the C5. Now again, we loaded this thing in. We had 1.5 inches of total clearance on the floor rails. Excuse me. And we didn't think, the load master, who was the chief master sergeant, wasn't sure it was going to fit. I said, trust me, I've measured it every which way, from Friday. And we had to take off the outer wheels, so 3-wheel bogey, and take off the brake assembly to clear. And if we were too close, we'd put a come along in between the landing gear and torque them in. So we loaded up into the airplane. This is on October 27th, 1991. We're getting ready we didn't have any gas at Palmdale. We had gas we had to leave Palmdale, and we flew from there to Travis Air Force Base and spent the night. And they had fuel there for us. And the next morning, we took off heading to Minnesota. We were out about 45 minutes, and the chief master sergeant, who was the load master, said he's going to head down and check the load. And I said, well, can I go with you? And normally that would be a no-no, but being it's a guard unit and I'm a guardsman and this project was my baby, he said, well, since this is your baby, I can't say no. So went down into the cargo bay with the chief. He's checking a bunch of stuff. I climb up in the landing gear and I walk along the chines, and they're composite. I didn't want to step in the composite, but if you step where the screws were, that's a titanium rib. So I walked all the way over. I had the canopy blocked open with a wheel chock. I already had a bucket upside down, a 5-gallon bucket, and a cushion on the ejection seat because that's all the way down. And I go in there, I lift the canopy up, launched it, get in the cockpit, close the canopy all the way. And unlike when I was 10, I didn't latch the canopy because I didn't want to be stuck in it. And I'm in there for about 45 minutes, just going zoom, zoom. And all of a sudden I get a rap on the bottom of the fuselage. And I said, we got to go back up. So I go back up, and we're up there. And there's Jim Eastman. He flew 128 to 92,500 feet straight and level. And during a envelope expansion, because 128 was the envelope expansion airplane, it was in bad air, and he couldn't even get to 2.9, and no matter what he did. And the outside temperature was warmer than normal. Warmer, which means instead of being minus 70, it was only minus 40 below or something like that. So he said he dropped the nose down, and immediately he got in good air, and he redlined everything. And he knew as soon as he redlined everything that, I got to avoid the flight test and head back to the barn. And when they pulled the instrumentation out and checked it, and this is calibrated instrumentation for approximately 15 seconds, he was at 2,391 miles an hour, or Mach 3.56. And that airplane is the Blackbird is the last military aircraft to be designed exclusively with slide rules, because handheld computers did not exist. You had a yellow pad or a whiteboard or a blackboard. My dad called it his supercomputer. It was a 32-inch, I think it was a K&E slide rule. And he was a professor at Stanford, and that's he used that in his to solve problems. So it's just, I mean, everything how all this thing came together is just unbelievable. But here we are loading. We did do a documentary on it. The resolution on it is really sort of but because it's been recopied a half a dozen times, and I don't have an original of it. I wish I did. I had it, but an ex-wife of mine, not my first wife, but my last one I was divorced from, threw out all my stuff. And that was, yeah. I had all sorts of photos that she pitched that I just wanted, I got to leave that one alone. I'm just going to get furious. But we got it back. And as we're heading towards Minnesota on the 28th of October, the chief came back to me and he said, "Hey, the boss said you can be in the cockpit when we land." And I'm already in the front end of the C5. He said, "No, downstairs." So I went downstairs, got in the cockpit as we're studying our descent into Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. So when the airplane landed, I was in the cockpit of the A-12. And I was beyond myself. It's the most exciting thing I've ever done, short of becoming a dad. It hit every bell and whistle that I could ever dream of. So after we pulled the airplane out, and the next day the other C5 with the engine nacelles and outer wing panels came in. We had the whole airplane in 3 parts at the same location. I called Ben Rich and said, "Ben, I did something I think no one in the world will be able to beat." I said, "What's that?" And I said, "I've been the only person on Earth to been in the cockpit of a Blackbird at 33,000 feet at Mach 0.72 inside another airplane." And I landed it too. And Ben said he was laughing so hard, he almost wet his pants. So it was probably the most incredible thing I did. And 1989 was a banner year for a lot of things. Finding out that we're getting an A-12 Blackbird here, we're ordering, putting in the outer wing panels and engine nacelles. Now that cut line was at wing station 112 on both sides. We did a chalk line on it. We put 2-inch by 1/4 inch by 8-inch steel plates. We clamped it on each side of the cut and drilled 4 1/4-inch holes on each side of the cut. And we did it on the top of the wing beams and on the bottom. And there's 18 wing beams on this airplane. It's the only military aircraft ever to fly that never had a wing cracking problem, a wing lead. So it was an incredible event. But in November of '88, on the 11th and the 22nd of November, the Air Force announced the existence of the F-117 stealth fighter and the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. So early January, it's the first week of January, I call up my buddy John Lear, who lives in Vegas. And he said, "Hey, John," he said, "let's go see if we can go capture an F-117. And he said, "Come on down." So I flew into Vegas from Minnesota. I had some business out there, so I could always get some other company to pay my transportation. I get down there.
Stop right there, Jim. We'll stop right there because we're actually finna hit the last break here of the night.
Okay.
And just want to make sure that we definitely don't leave out any details of the story. Once again, this is an awesome night here, hanging out and celebrating the Aviation Hall of Fame induction with Jim Goodall, right? We've been watching Jim for a long time, and we know it's about time that this has come, and it's cool to be able to hang out with him as he gets to smell or sniff his flowers.
Yeah, well, I couldn't be more pleased.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to be right back right after this break with Jim Goodall, the legend, the great one. Right back here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. See you guys in just a minute.
Thank you, Amanda.
Definitely. You know
Yeah.
it. When's the last time you've been to Moffett?
It was before COVID, so it probably 2015, 10 years ago.
Okay. The last time I was thinking about you because I was actually just there. My brother works for NASA, and he was picking something up off the base. I happened to be down there with him, so I was like, you know what? Since I'm here, let me go ahead and film a couple things. So next time I talk to Jim, I could actually show him. So that's what I'm going to do right now while we're on break.
Okay.
Actually, just transfer these over. Let's do these in order here. I don't know. They should be in order. Let's see. Oh, Lord. Okay, get that. Right, it is installing the codec to play the video. So, man,
Well, I hit a milestone today.
oh, well,
A milestone that
who's
I
that?
that I've lost as much weight as I weigh today. I weigh 187.
Wow,
I weigh 187 pounds, and I've lost 187 pounds.
that is awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
I was at
Congratulations
370
on that.
in January of 2005. I hit the scales at 375, and this morning I was at 185.
That is awesome. Let me bring this up here. Hopefully,
And I did it without surgery or Ozempic or any stuff like that. I just pure willpower.
you guys hear that? You guys hear that? I'm gonna take some heed too because I need to. I got to get myself back where I used to be back in my heyday, and I'm just not there right now. So,
Well, my way I looked at it, this I had told myself for a couple of years that I had to do it, and I did, and I'm just, but nothing nothing after 7 o'clock. Weigh yourself every morning at the same time. I weigh myself with nothing on, so I know exactly what I weigh, and I'm just amazed how the stuff has come off.
yeah, I've done that one time in my life where I took charted the progress, and I did the same thing. Just haven't done. I don't know if it's because I've done it, and so I feel like I don't like the passion isn't there to do it again. I don't know. It's weird.
Oh, wait, I mean, I love food. I'm mostly Sicilian. Everything was through the mouth: happiness, boredom, celebration, anger, whatever. You ate to celebrate or to mourn or to whatever. I mean, it's just that's what my mom's Sicilian family would do. And I quit. I had smoked from the time I was 10 until I was 12 until I was 32. I'll wait later. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay, one moment now. It's not wanting to. Bloomberg Center for Science Innovation, NASA Aeronautics Research Institute. Yeah, okay. That's not good. here on the NASA campus. You can see right there, it's a space shuttle. There's a space shuttle, or a replica. Okay, that didn't want to play. Okay, well, it played, but you couldn't see it, which was all right. Well, we'll have to figure something out on that.
Technology
It was
sucks.
beautiful. Yeah, the video was so beautiful. But here we go. We're coming back in 3 seconds.
Okay.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Space Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are back in the building with our guy, the legend, the great one, Jim Goodall. Giving him his flowers, right? Because accomplishments and accolades, sometimes you kind of, don't see the importance of them, but I do. And that's why we're doing this here tonight. Make sure if you missed any part of the conversation, you jump in the archive, absolutely free, youtube.com/Space Out Radio, as we go ahead and get back into Jim's fantastic story on how it all started leading up to being an inductee into the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame. And you can pick up wherever you like, Jim.
Okay, well, I was talking about the recovery of A12 number 128. Serial number is 606931. And one of the funny things, when I was just before we ended up going to Palmdale, I was at the Guard Museum, and the phone rings. I'm in the office. I answer the phone. This is Tech Sergeant Goodall. He says, "This is Colonel so-and-so, Secretary of the Air Force Office of Public Affairs. I'd like to speak to the officer in charge of the Blackbird recovery." I said, "You're speaking to him." No, I mean the officer that's in charge. You're an NCO. I said, "Colonel, this is my project. This is my baby. How can I help you?" There's no officer in charge? No. I said, there's officers involved, but I'm the one in charge. And he was not accepting that very well. He said, "Well, I want to bring a film crew there into Air Force Plant 42, Site 10, which is the Skunk Works. And I need to know who to contact." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, when you arrive, we're going to be loading the airplane on the 27th of October. When you arrive, you go to security, you tell Glenna Farley, who is the head security person there at Skunk Works, that Jim Goodall, Tech Sergeant Jim Goodall, gives you the okay to come on to the flight line and see the loading." And you could just hear his jaws just tighten up. Here he's having a tech sergeant, not even a master sergeant, a tech sergeant, tell him what to do. So I said, "I'll see you on the flight line." So I'm up there, we're watching the loading of the fuselage. And I see this bird colonel coming. It's a hats off area. You don't salute. And I see him coming toward me with a still photographer and then a video photographer. And I said, "Colonel," says, I'm Sergeant Goodall. Welcome to the Skunk Works." And he didn't even, he smiled at me sort of, and it was a pained smile, but he didn't want to acknowledge the fact that some low-life NCO is responsible for this whole project. But it was. And but to go back, just prior to this, 1989 was sort of a banner year all the way around. My dear friend John Lear, we passed here 3 years ago now. We just had a fun relationship. He's one of the craziest SOBs I've ever known. And he was probably one of those outrageous people I know. But I called him up in January of '89 because they announced the existence of the F-117 and the B-2 a month and a half earlier. And I said, "Lear, I'm going to come into Vegas. There's the crew. I'm going to come in. There's Area 51. And let's go see if we can capture an F-117. So I landed in Vegas, rented a car, went over, picked up Lear because he lived there on Hollywood Boulevard. Doesn't anymore, or passed away. And we're heading up US 95, heading towards Tonopah. And we had just, we were on the road for an hour and a couple hours, and we're just past about the 2/3 of the way mark, or the 3/4 mark, is Scotty's Junction. Scotty's Junction is a local point of interest. It was a house of ill repute, also known as a whorehouse, that the federal government took over and ran it out of business because they couldn't manage the property, I guess. But about 10 or 15 miles north of Scotty's Junction, an F-117 at about 1,500 feet flew right in front of me, about a quarter mile or so ahead of me, maybe farther than that. But almost, I mean, I could almost reach up and touch it. I almost crashed the car. So we got into town of Tonopah. We were both starved. We got a quick bite to eat. And we head out on US 6 heading eastbound. Go about 14 miles with a big sign, Tonopah Test Range, and it has a B-43 nuclear weapon with a Nike Ajax attached to it. And you go down that road, and 18 miles is the main gate to Tonopah Test Range. And I can get into any base, military base, active duty base, except ones that are in restricted areas. So we got down there. We saw that there was a well-marked path of vehicles that had been down the fence line, north of the fence line. So we drove our rent-a-car down that, and we're standing there. Now, this is before digital cameras. And I had a Nikon. I had Nikon lenses, and this, by the way, that's half blue. That's the technology demonstrator for the F-117. And my mind just went blank again. I hate that. It happens when you're 80 years old. You get bumps in the process. But we drive about 2 miles west along the fence line, and we park, and you're looking down on the whole facility. It's all there. It's 8 miles away. It's clear. There's no dust or smog or anything. So I look to the north, and there's a black fuzzy ball about 20 miles out with a light underneath it, and then a much smaller little dot that was white and white and bluish with a light underneath it. And I just assume that's a chase plane with the F-117. As I have my telephoto lens on, and I have 36 exposures of Kodacolor 100, a very fine grain color print film. This is before digital. And I was hoping I'd get back in Las Vegas in time to go to a photomat, which were taken over by coffee baristas later on. And you don't even get out of your car. They hand you the envelope, you put your name on it, you tear the thing off, you put your exposed film in, hand it to them, come back the next day, and it's done. But it was going to be late at night. We headed east on 6, and we're at Warm Springs. You head south on the extraterrestrial highway, Nevada 375. We make it to the Little Alien. We have a bite there, and we knew we're not going to make it back in time to have any photomats open. So I got to wait another day, another 2 days to get it processed. And I was sort of bummed, but I didn't know if I had something that was really good because I was vibrating. And when the F-117 came into full frame, I mean, it's right there. I was like a 10-year-old boy seeing a naked woman for the first time. My body was just vibrating. I mean, it was going about 60 cycle, and I was trying to hold the camera, and I couldn't stop shaking. I was so excited. And once it passed, I used up all the frame and say, "Hey, Lear, let's get the heck out of here." So we did. When we left the Little Alien, we knew we weren't going to make it back in time to go to a photomat. So we hit John's house about 9:15 that night, and John said, "Well, I got a new friend. He's just moved here from Albuquerque. He's waiting for his clearance to be upgraded out in the desert. He's not sure what he's going to do, but he's a physicist. I think you'll enjoy him." And I said, "Sure." And about 10 minutes after we arrived, they're knocking the door, and this nice young man, soft-spoken, came into John's study, and for whatever reason, I never photographed his study. There are some people who did, but it was an experience all on its own. So this young man introduces himself as Bob Lazar. Now, that didn't strike anything interesting to me at the moment. And he said, I told him, my dilemma, we'd photographed the 117, but I'm going to have to wait, 2 days to find out if I had anything as decent. And then he said, well, hey, I have a C41 processing unit, which is good, which is used for processing color print film, Kodak film, at my place over in West Charleston. Let's head over there. So we jump in his car, and we're about a block from Lear's. And Lazar looks at me and he says, see, I feel sorry for that dumb SOB Lear. I said, what do you mean you feel sorry for him? I said, here's this guy's from this world famous aviation family. He said, my God, his dad gave the world Learjet, and not counting all the avionics and stuff that he had developed. And says, and he called it the S word. And he said, and that he believes in UFOs. How stupid is that? He said, so I'm a physicist. If I can't prove it mathematically or put my hands on it, it didn't exist or doesn't exist. Yeah. I said, that's a pretty wild, that's a pretty wild statement. Of course, I didn't know who Bob Lazar was at the time. So we get to his place. I see his very fancy diploma. It could have been from MIT. It could have been from Caltech. I don't know. All I know, it was very ornate. So I know it was one of the biggies. And I just sort of glanced at it as I went in there. And we got the film processed, and I had a half a dozen good images, and I was really, really thrilled about. So we head back to Lear's, and we have a good time. We talk about this and that and whatever. Okay, fast forward to May of 22. I'm over at Bob's place, and spent a couple of days there. I have a picture of me in his lab, and you have one of the shots, I think, taken from the lab. And we're sitting out watching the sun, the sunset. His wife is just a sweetheart, Joy, and she was mad at me because her new dog liked me better than her. But dogs like me. And I asked him, hey, I said, now Bob has what I say is a photographic memory. I said, Bob, do you remember what you told me the evening that we met? He said, yep. He said, I said that I don't believe in UFOs. They don't exist. And I think John Lear was a jackass for believing in UFOs. I said, thank you. He confirmed what he had told me in the car in 1989. So it's just been an adventure that is just too good. And then to add some whipped cream and a cherry on the top of this adventure, Luigi from Montreal, Canada. And I spent the summer of 71 in Montreal. And it's a fun place. You have to speak French, but you have to speak colonial French, which is what the colonials use, not modern French. And it was just an absolutely fun time. I was going somewhere else with that, and all of a sudden it disappeared. But I know where I was going. So Luigi and his crew started putting together a real and an honest documentary on Bob Lazar, not Jeremy Doorbell's Jeremy Doorbell promotion. It was not a Lear promotion. I mean, a Lazar promotion. It was that documentary was promoting him. And Luigi got hold of me, and we talked. He called me on StreamYard. I think we talked for 3 hours. And I sent him all sorts of stuff. I am listed on the documentary in the credits as a technical advisor. And this summer, when it has its world premiere, I'm going to get a number of VIP front row tickets. I don't know where it's going to be held. Luigi said he's trying to coordinate it to get it at the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Okay.
That would be just absolutely mind-boggling.
Oh yeah.
Just the experience of being that huge ball, and what a better place to have it. And and I'm going to be sitting there with Bob and with Joy and with Luigi and a lot of the other people. And one of the things Bob said during this whole process, now I've not shared a lot of things that he told me in confidence, but it's going to be, the documentary is just one of 3 parts. And one of the parts is they're going to be eventually they're going to be coming out with a museum quality metal, almost like your Franklin Mint type models of the S4 hangar with all the support equipment and the sports model. And the box that it comes in, it delivers in, acts as the hangar. You put that on your desk and you have yourself S4. Now, one of the things that Bob said he saw, and this was within the last 6 months, he saw some of the final clips from Luigi's group of the hangar. And Bob said it gave him goosebumps. He looked at that and he could feel it and he could smell the hangar. He said it was that realistic. So I think by now he has seen the whole thing, but at the time he'd only seen some clips, and he says this is gangbusters. And one of the things they did, they managed to get a operating DeLorean Back to the Future, and they went out on a dry lake bed outside of Pahrump and filmed. It was May 1st of 22, or was it 23? It was 23. And I had just on the 30th returned from 2 weeks of Belize, tramping through unexcavated Mayan pyramids. And I'd been gone for almost 3 weeks, and I could not turn around get on the 31st or the 30th and head out the next day and meet him on the lake bed, because they had invited me to come out the lake bed for during the filming. So I'm looking forward to meeting Luigi in person. He is just a cool guy. We're 2 spaghetti benders, and Bob will be there, and his beautiful wife Joy will be there, and it's going to be a fun reunion. So this is just it's an incredible time of the year. It's an incredible event. I'm saddened that John didn't live long enough to see it come to fruition. He was peripheral to all of it, and he was instrumental in it all coming together from the very beginning, because John's the one who introduced Bob to George Knapp. I've known George for 45 years, and it's just it was meant to be. That's about the only way I can put it. It was a period of time in my life, and in Lear's life, and in Lazar's life, where the 3 of us sort of came together, and it just gelled into a fun team, and it was just a fun adventure. And I wish my friend John Andrews would have been alive to see this happen, because he spent a lot of time and effort creating the Tester's sports model UFO that was released back in 92 or 93. So.
Yeah, and I know I have a photo of that. I think I have that here. Right.
Okay, this is the popular science piece where all the red arrows are going. Those are all me. You'll see the Area 51 patch that I designed with Glenn Campbell, the late Glenn Campbell, not the singer, but the Area 51 Research Center guy. And that's the front cover. 6 million people read this issue of Popular Science, the largest circulation ever for this type of magazine, and it was March 1994. And I even have a couple extra one of these left. There's the F-117, and in less than a month, they shipped 700,000 models into distribution that were sold. It was normally the only kits that sell that many are cars. And he came out with his version of of what we thought the F-117 would be. Now, one of the things that Ben told me, he said, with the exception of the canards up front and the wonky NACA inlets, the model was actually a low observable. They metallized it, and there was a company out of San Diego. And the first name was World something, but they had a chamber for testing radar cross section for on small models. So they metallized it, put it on a post to turn and rotate, and they said it was in fact an honest to goodness low observable airplane. So John went down in history of designing and building and creating the world's best-selling plastic airplane model ever. And I was honored to be part of it. It was just fun. So, yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say, and they, you play as big a part in the story as the other players do. I'm just thinking of everyone's contribution to the story, and then the fact that you guys were all able to come together. I mean, because when you talk about Aviation Hall of Fame, and you said you weren't a pilot, right?
Correct.
And that just goes to show how you make the Aviation Hall of Fame is based on being the historian that you are.
I'm the only non-pilot in there, which just blows me away. But it's this was my destiny. Starting in 1988 through 9/11 was an incredibly special time for a group of us. We called the Interceptors. We're the Dreamland Interceptors. There was about 10 of us. It was Mark Farmer, there was Stu Brown, there was John Lear, about 3 or 4 other guys, Mike Dornheim, Jim Bakos. And we'd go out there, we'd plant our butts at the fence line at Tonopah Test Range or up in the top of the Groom Range overlooking Area 51. And we had the world by the short hairs. It was one of the most fun times. And we got to the point when they all knew who we were. I can remember I was out there later on this in 1996, and I know we're running out of time, but Lear and I are at the fence line at Tonopah Test Range, 11 o'clock at night. And we're in lawn chairs. We have Generation 1 night vision. And we see 3 armored personnel carriers come, one from the south, east, and the west. And I stand up. Their lights were off. I stand up. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I yell out real loud, "Hey, we're good guys for taxpayers." All of a sudden, we had floodlights on us, 3 little red dots on my chest. John had 3 little red dots in his chest. And there was a guy in Desert Utilities came around, parked his pickup behind John's pickup, came out and said, "You ordered us out of the area. You're in a restricted area." I told him we weren't. And as it turns out, we over the course of about 15 minutes that we end up giving him our driver's license, handed him to someone at on the south side of the fence.
Jim, can you give us 15 more minutes?
Conversations that move the needle.
I have to go.
Okay. Well, this is Jim Goodall, guys.
Only place where you can.
We do appreciate you. Those on the radio, make sure you come back after the break. And then Jim, give me just a second.
Yeah. And Rob, are you going to be in Vegas?
All right, we're clear. Yes, I'm definitely going to be in Vegas. And I will see you there. I do appreciate your time, Jim. We do have to go to commercial break, but we'll do this again soon, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, and I appreciate for missing the first 40 minutes of it, but I was off by an hour.
Yeah, don't worry about it. You have a great rest of your night, Jim. We'll link up again soon.
All righty, you take care.
Take care.
And it was fun.
Yes, sir.
And Rob, anytime.
Yes, I already know that too. So I'll talk to you soon.
All right, adios.
Okay.
Take care.
gonna go ahead and actually jump right back up in here because it looks like it would have took us over the break. We have about 12 seconds left before we come back for hour number 3. Guys, let's get ready. All right. You write that down, 10 o'clock Pacific. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, After Hours Radio Show. Want to thank Jim Goodall for stepping in the building. We were able to give him his flowers here tonight. Hall of Fame inductee, Aviation Hall of Fame inductee, more importantly. He's a legend. He's the man with the plan. Give it up to Jim Goodall. We're going to jump into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries, and Drew Banke with the After Hours wrap-up right here on Spaced Out Radio. So we get ready to jump right on in to Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Number 1, Ranger Ralph W. Heath. Ralph W. Heath was a park ranger at Baxter State Park in Maine, United States, who allegedly died of exposure while attempting to rescue a woman who was lost on Mount Katahdin in 1963. On Monday, October 28th of that year, 2 women, Helen Mower and Margaret Ibisek, both from Concord, Massachusetts, took the Cathedral Trail and climbed Baxter Peak on the mountain. They reached the summit and stopped to have lunch at around 1:30 in the afternoon. When the 2 friends decided to start their hike again and head back down, they had a small argument over the route Margaret wanted to take. Helen simply wanted to go back the way they came, but Margaret wanted to bushwhack, which, very simply put, means to leave the established trail or get off the beaten path, as it were. Helen knew how risky this was, although Margaret had more hiking experience than she did, not by much, and only 3 years total. She thought it way too dangerous and stormed off to take Dudley Trail, which was the original trail they had taken to get there in the first place, and let her friend make her own mistakes and go her own way. It was a decision she would later regret very much. Margaret, on the other hand, thought she was taking a shortcut and laughed off her friend's warnings, and they went their separate ways, agreeing to meet at the Chimney Pond lean-to. When Helen reached the final destination and saw there was no sign of Margaret, she decided to wait, but got very worried very quickly. Though it was a nice and sunny day out that day, a nor'easter was blowing in, and the weather was about to very quickly take a turn for the worse. She started calling for Margaret at the headwell near and towards the mountain itself. She was pleasantly surprised when she heard her friend respond and started calling back, despite the fact she was asking for help. Margaret yelled that she was not hurt, but was stuck in the treacherous terrain and wouldn't possibly be able to continue her turn back, and pleaded with Helen to go and get some help. This is when Helen made her way to the ranger station and encountered Ranger Ralph Heath having dinner. She explained the situation, and Ralph immediately knew how dangerous that path was and how serious a problem they had. He was, however, thanking his lucky stars, in his mind at least, that there hadn't been any snowfall, at least not yet. As any other year, for as far back as he could remember, there would have been snow covering the mountain for weeks at that point in the year. Ralph followed Helen back to Chimney Point and yelled out in the direction of Margaret and instructed her in a very calm and clear voice to stay where she was and not try to move or go anywhere. Help was on the way. With the wind increasing like it was, Ralph knew that the situation could go from scary to deadly in a matter of just seconds. He had to act fast. He took Helen back to the ranger station and radioed his supervisor, Helan Taylor, and told him there was a hiker stranded in the upper basin on the mountain. Now, a little background on Mr. Ralph Heath to show what a brave man he was indeed, and how he was definitely not someone to shy away from trouble. He served in World War II and was honorably discharged. However, a house fire destroyed everything he owned but the clothes on his back, including his discharge papers. He was redrafted to serve in the Korean War before anyone could verify he had already been discharged and had finished his service to the country. Ralph, however, went without hesitation to serve, only for his wife to decide she didn't want to deal with another tour, especially one he shouldn't have had to have gone on, and file for divorce. So this was a man who was seeking solitude and peace in his life after all of this tragedy and heartbreak, and he absolutely loved his job as a ranger and the beauty of the mountains. Despite the weather outside becoming more and more perilous and the orders from the supervising ranger that they had to wait until morning to attempt any kind of search and rescue, Ralph decided the risk to Margaret was too great, leaving her out there all alone at night. Snow was definitely coming, and a lot of it. He decided to attempt to rescue himself, despite it being nightfall and dark outside. The temperature had drastically dropped as well. He borrowed Helen's backpack and filled it with essentials such as food, a sleeping bag, water, a parka, and extra clothes. He also took 80 feet of rope and at 11 p.m. that same night, headed alone down Dudley Trail. It wasn't until 5 hours later, at 4 in the morning, that he reported back to Helen. He told her he had spoken to Margaret about an hour after heading out and was able to obtain her location when he again told her to stay put and assured her help was on the way. She reiterated she was uninjured, but very cold. She's probably more than a little scared as well, I'm sure. He told Helen that Margaret was near the waterfall and he wouldn't be able to reach her without more rope and more people. This was an area that even ice climbers considered treacherous and dangerous. Ralph was also extremely concerned because Margaret was refusing to stay and wait for help to arrive and was determined to find a way out herself for fear she would freeze to death before anyone would be able to rescue her. After reassuring Helen and telling her what was going on, he contacted his supervisor, Helan Taylor, and made him aware as well. Taylor dispatched the Maine Forest Service, 2 additional park rangers, and a Maine game warden. By 6 in the morning, Tuesday the 29th, an icy rain began to fall and the wind had picked up drastically. Ralph Heath ate his breakfast and then informed Helen Maurer of his plans. He was going to ascend the ravine from Chimney Pond, climb straight up the head wall and into the waterfall, where he would provide comfort to Barbara, and if he couldn't manage to rescue her himself, at least she wouldn't be scared and alone, and he would wait with her until the additional resources arrived to get them both out. Now, he was clearly putting himself at great risk, knowing it was unlikely he would be able to do anything but just sit with Margaret and wait. Yet, he did it anyway. He was truly a hero. While the plan was very reasonable, and despite being a chain smoker, Ralph was in great shape and a capable hiker and climber. However, he had hiked Dudley Trail 4 times in the last 24 hours, and it was a very strenuous and hard trail to get through. He was absolutely exhausted at this point and shouldn't have been doing any more hiking or climbing without getting some much-needed rest. This would, after all, be a trailless climb he was planning to make. He wasn't going to leave Margaret, however, so the admonishments and warnings from his co-workers and even Helen fell on deaf ears. Ralph reached Barbara just as Hurricane Jenny reached the mountain. He sat with her for a little while and the two hunkered down. A ranger sergeant set out on foot towards Chimney Pond as well and stated that, by the time he got to just the basin, the conditions were whiteout with gale-force winds. By noon, not even the jeeps could make it to the trailhead. There was 18 inches of snow already and more falling fast. He even reported that, only halfway up the mountain, his clothes had frozen solid and literally cracked at the elbows. Having no visibility and facing merciless winds, not to mention the condition of his clothing, forced him back down the mountain. He stated he knew that both Ralph and Margaret were in some very serious trouble as help could no longer get to them. It would be impossible for them to help themselves as well. The following morning, Wednesday, October 30th, 1963, Warden Supervisor David Priest returned to Roaring Brook and set up what we today call an Incident Command Center and had at least 35 people there working at all times. All different avenues of help were brought in and explored, but nobody could do anything as the snow was still accumulating and fast on Friday morning. Flash forward to November 1st. Now it had been 5 full days since Margaret had gotten herself stuck and 4 whole days since Ralph Heath had joined her to provide comfort and possible rescue, which we know now he was unable to do. On Saturday, November 2nd, all teams and persons involved decided that any rescue attempts were futile, that they were simply wasting resources at that point. Mr. William Lowell Putnam III was one of the most experienced mountaineers in the country at the time and had been helping with the rescue effort since Friday. Finally, on Sunday, November 3rd, he made the statement that he believed Ralph and Margaret had most likely died on Tuesday and reiterated the waste of resources should they continue on this impossible trek to try and save them. It wasn't until almost 6 months later, in April of 1964, that Margaret Ivesick's body was found and finally able to be brought down the mountain and sent home. Even at this time, though, they needed chemical salts to melt the ice so as not to damage the corpse in any way, and the rescue still took an additional 3 days. It was found during the autopsy that Margaret was severely injured and hadn't survived more than a few hours due to the extreme blood loss. Her official cause of death was exsanguination. In other words, she bled out. 2 weeks later, on May 15th, they finally found Ralph's body. He was found, oddly enough, 400 feet above where Margaret was found. They airlifted him out of there, and his autopsy showed nothing at all. The coroner stated, "It looks as if he simply sat down and went to sleep," which is not uncommon when people freeze to death.
Steve Stockton tells Untold Mr. Person Mysteries. Once again, want to thank Steve Stockton for being a part of the show, for always bringing what Area 51 calls bringing the heat and never the sleep. And I think a lot of you guys out there know exactly what I mean. Let's go ahead and bring in our guy. You already know who he is. Do I even have to say his name? I will. Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up. Let's go.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here. I'm going to eat you. Get in my belly.
You're a monster!
That's Drew Banky, and he is here in the building with the After Hours wrap up. Drew, appreciate you joining us here tonight. How have you been, my friend?
Great, man. Getting ready to travel soon, and yeah, just living. It's nice weather and getting outside a lot lately and all that. How you been?
Man, you just said it right there. Being able to get outside a lot more. That weather change just kind of does something to you. And just that's what I've been doing. We've been out of town a lot. That's why we've had some replay shows go the last couple weeks. Easter, all these holidays, things of that nature. So yeah, getting into the swing of spring, ready to actually go to Vegas next week. I know you're out of town for your event. Space Out Radio as well will be out doing things. So no shows next weekend, as I said earlier in the show. And then we'll be back full swing the following week. So it's gonna be awesome. A much needed break, I think, for everybody, because even the crowd, even the audience, I'm a viewer myself, and sometimes I appreciate a break as a viewer. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it works out. You see, we have the legend Jim Goodall in the building tonight. He was inducted into the Aviation Hall of Fame out in Minnesota. And just it's amazing to me, to always be, and not necessarily that he was reaching for this or he even expected this, but the fact that his work that he continues to do puts him in positions to get more accolades into, and he's still just every day. That's mind-blowing, and I appreciate it, which is why I wanted to do a show based around Jim Goodall, because he's, I don't know what else to say. How do you feel about it?
He's the man. I've been privy to several interviews with him and everything, and got to know him over the past couple of years, and he's a great dude. And one thing from one thing talking to Jim is, if you heard several interviews with him, the story never changes, so that's always a green flag when you're listening to Jim. He knows his stuff too, and to be honored like this without him being a pilot, shout out to him, man. I think he put it very well, that this was his calling. This was part of his calling. Like he felt like this was, part of a big thing to accomplish in his life and everything. And he set out and did it, man. Like, the SR-71 Blackbird. We joked around a little bit before we started. I said I was going to have a drinking game every time Jim mentioned SR-71 Blackbird, but thank God I did. But because I know, I mean, that's his passion. He loves that thing, and hearing that story of him getting inside the cockpit when it was in the back of the transport plane, I've heard that story probably close to half a dozen times at least, if not more. And it never gets old. But there's always something different. I've never went all the way back to 5 years old with him. That's a long way back. But that's Jim, man. And he's a great guy. And yeah, he's always been a staple of spaced out radio for sure.
And this is how, and that's excellent. Everything you just said, and is very true as well. And my thing with Jim, he didn't even know me very well. This is prior to me coming on Space Out Radio. He actually came as a guest on my channel, Social Dig. This is before I ever started After Hours. So we had already done an interview by the time I came over to Space Out Radio. And during that first interview, he went ahead and sent me an autographed copy of his book, the Skunk Works book, 75 Years Skunk Works, which is, if you have not, I mean, everybody, obviously, there's a lot of people that come on that have books, written books, but the quality of the books, that as far as the physical material quality of these books, and then the informational quality inside is not matched. I haven't seen, just the amount of time, resources, and likely money that went into just creating these books was awesome. Very appreciated, for him to be able to stuff all that knowledge into one book. And that's just one book. I think he's said many times that Skunk Works has offered to kind of put it in their sort of little Hall of Fame sort of, collection for Skunk Works, but they're just not doing it yet. It's worth that. It's worth that. And to see someone put in that much work over the years, I'm the only person that I know of that has interviewed Jim Goodall and went down the visual lane, right? Because he talks about certain things, but you hardly get him to talk about the interceptors, and that's why there were a lot of photos to go along with what he talked about today, because we've done this before, and when we sit up and we give him an accolade for achieving something like Aviation Hall of Fame, I think it's only right to hear the story from the beginning, because that's what, why not?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, it's really a credit to see Jim. You always see, I always see a lot of myself in people I talk to. It's just, I see a part of myself, and for me to see Jim, it's a boost to help me keep going on and doing what I'm doing, because I'm following my passion, and he's followed his all this time, and now he's finally starting to really reap the rewards of it and everything, and getting to just be proud of himself, and have people talk about him and things like that, especially being involved in this Lazar thing coming out. That's huge, and speaking on writing books, I mean, I know I've wrote 2 books. So him writing over 29 books he's up to right now. That's
a lot of books.
That's amazing. I mean, I know what goes into writing books. I know how long it takes, and everything that goes into it. So shouts out to him. He's lived an amazing life, and God willing, we have him around for a long time, and we get to hear that story of him climbing in the cockpit of the SR-71 in the back of the transport plane a few more times, because I just enjoy Jim. He's got a beautiful energy about him and everything, and yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah. And as we were talking, I just want to make sure that, I mean, this show is all about him. So I just want to make sure that we kind of put some of those things up. You can find Jim Goodall in some of these documentaries that have been out here: Secret Space UFOs, Fast Walkers, Secret Space UFOs, Rise of the TR-3B. He's been on Ancient Aliens multiple times. Above Top Secret, the technology behind disclosure, countdown to disclosure, UFO Endgame to disclosure, which I believe some of these were Stephen Greer films. Also, some of the books that he has written, and the one in the top center, which is 75 Years Skunk Works. That's the one that I was lucky enough to get from Jim Goodall autographed, and it is so great of a. And I'm not just saying this to pump Jim up or to do any of that. This is literally probably the most quality book that I've held in my hand, knowing who the author is or getting this from the author. So definitely, he has also the SR-71 Blackbird book, because he is the foremost historian on the SR-71. So the what is that? The B-28 Spirit, something I can barely see it. Fast attack submarines, Nautilus to Columbia, another fast attack submarines book, the SR-71 Pilot's Manual, and the Lockheed F-117A. I mean, this is how you get to the Aviation Hall of Fame, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. It isn't just because they like Jim a lot, which they might like Jim a lot, but the groundwork has been laid to be able to position yourself for something like that. So I guess that's to say to other people out there, it doesn't matter what age you are, never quit, quit doing what you can do, because it's obvious that even though you may not realize in the moment that that the appreciation comes back to you and you do get to see your flowers. And that's why, I'm doing this for Jim, because I appreciate what he's done, and I'm sure he's gotten flowers and appreciation from others, but I want to make sure that he got it from me directly, because that's how much I appreciate what he's done for me so far. So shout out to Jim Goodall. Keep being the legend. What was the moniker he had on the screen? It was not the legend. It was Jim the something
or something.
Yeah, it was something awesome.
I might have to go back. You might have to go back and look.
Oh, the great one, Jim the Great
The
One.
great one. Jim the Great One. That's what took him so long. He was trying to figure out how to change his title. That took him a while.
Yeah, and I knew that was some going on there, because Jim Goodall is always on time, and
Yeah.
I knew he had mentioned to me before the show, he thought I was doing this on Dave's time, and that's immediately what kicked in. I was like, he must think we are going on at 9 and not 8 Pacific. But it was cool because I got to at least talk about Jim for a little bit before he came in. So I think that actually worked out pretty great. And then he kind of stepped in and did his Jim thing, and the rest is history. And we will do it again, obviously, as we have about 1 minute left until we go ahead and take our final break of the night here. It's just good being back, man. We have our new graphics up here at the After Hours. We are constantly raising the bar. We got some new things coming down the pipeline too. As you see, we have our hour counter at the bottom of the screen as well. Just a lot of things that we're cooking up to make this a more visual appealing situation for our viewers out there, because we know the content is there. We want the visuals and the content and the visuals, and we want them up here, right? And that's what we're doing and what we're moving towards. We are lining up some great guests as well to come through after the break, after we take this Las Vegas break. I just talked to Preston Dennett, and so he'll probably be the next one up. Preston Dennett coming on the show. We got a few other big names that haven't fully locked in yet that we're working on. So a lot of great stuff coming down the pipeline right here. Space Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. If you're coming on for the first time, welcome. We're going to take this break, guys. Make sure that you don't go anywhere, because as I always say, you can go somewhere. You can go walk away, go get your drink, but make sure you come right back after the break. as we get ready to wrap it up. The last 30 minutes of the show, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with Drew Benke. The After Hours wrap up. We'll see you in just a moment. All right, we are clear. Good stuff. And I think I figured out that crashing problem, what happens. I think it's, because the way this program works, there's entries for these things that play. And I think that time slot is corrupted at 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock Pacific. So I need to go in there and fix that.
Seems to happen the same time every time.
Yeah. And there was actually lately it happened, or the last couple of days, it happened more than once. And I fixed one of them, and then I didn't do the other one because I wanted to see, okay, let's see if it happens, or if me fixing the one fixed them both. It fixed the one, but it didn't fix the second one. So, and I think there's a third one that comes as we come back from break right now. So we're about to find out if that's still an issue. But if so, I know I need to fix the 10 o'clock coming back from commercial, 10 o'clock, and then maybe 10:30. We'll see here in a moment. But what's been going on with you, Drew? Man, you got some stuff to share, man, while we're on break here?
Yeah, we're just going to Wisconsin on Thursday and speaking on Friday. Man, and I got a full day Friday lined up. I got next Friday I'll be at Contact Modalities Expo in Wisconsin. Still tickets available. We're going to be doing sky watches at night, seminars all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but Friday's my day. I got the main stage at 2 p.m. And then I got a little break. And then after that at 5 p.m., I'm doing a workshop talking about sacred ceremony a little bit. And then I'm going to do the hands-on demonstration with the pendulum. I'm going to take my dowsing rods there. So I'm going to bring out multiple people with and have pendulums and dowsing rods going at the same time so people can experience that. So if you're around the Midwest, if you can't make it to Vegas to the Spaced Out Radio Party, come to Wisconsin. And if you're not in either one of those places, you're just wrong. You're just totally wrong. So if you're not coming to see either Dave and Rob G or me in Wisconsin, you're just wrong. So come to one of the two places and do that next weekend. But and then the VIP luncheon on Friday, I just got confirmed for that, and just put in my my entree selection for that. So I will be at the VIP luncheon. Just got bumped up because there's a lot of people come to see me already. So there's a schedule. Yeah, there's it's gonna be good, and obviously Chris Bledsoe is gonna be there. Gonna try to talk to him. Gonna try to build a relationship where he can come on the show sometime in the future. That'd be great. And yeah, there's gonna be a lot of other amazing people there too, as well. Paula Harris, she runs the Conscious Life Expo. Obviously, Jimmy Church, I don't know, Paulo and others. But yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend. Looking forward to it. And yeah, other than that, I've been working on my presentation and everything. Got a little printout made of some fun facts to share about how far psychedelics go back. We talked about before. Oh yeah, Deb Shakti's going to be there as well, obviously, and Ray Hernandez. Yeah, but it's exciting. Looking forward to that.
That is awesome, man. That is awesome, man. Having fingers out there, man, just being able to touch so many people out there is beautiful. It's beautiful. And seeing all these faces and people that I know as well. It's like, man, this is how you want it to be. And really just getting that grip even further out there to touch as many people as possible. I think this is an awesome thing, man. And I'm glad that they got you on board. And I know it's going to be awesome, man. I know it's going to be awesome, even though I won't be able to be there, man. It's way out in,
I know. I've I, le- le-
Wisconsin.
le- last year. I was. I think I was co-hosting or part-time co-hosting around Spaced Out Radio, and wanted to go to the fan party, and it wasn't Las Vegas, but it was somewhere Reno, I think, wasn't it, or something like that. Yeah, but yeah, can't make it this year either. But another exciting
Coming
thing
back right
Thursday when I land. But
all right, everybody, welcome back, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We are back with the After Hours wrap up and Drew Banky because we had an awesome show tonight. We had Jim Goodall, just being Jim Goodall, the legend, the chosen one, the great one, being inducted into the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame. If you missed that conversation, jump back, go back, archives, absolutely free. Don't cost a dime. YouTube.com/at Spaced Out Radio, as we are getting back into the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky. Drew Banky will be in Wisconsin here coming up soon, and we were kind of talking about that. And if you just want to give a quick little thing about that, Drew, let the radio people know in case they're in the area.
Yeah, so if you listen to the radio, if you missed that little break that was the YouTube audience got to see, I will be in Wisconsin this coming weekend at the Contact Modalities Expo. Be speaking on Friday. I have two presentations on Friday, main stage at 2 p.m. And then I have another presentation. My main presentation will be on psychedelics and their role in human evolution. And then I have another presentation on sacred ceremony and the power of telekinesis and words. VIP luncheon. Some of the other guests include Jimmy Church, which is the MC of the whole thing. Chris Bledsoe, Adam Apollo, Ray Hernandez, Deb Shakti, many others. Paula Harris, which she heads up Conscious Life Expo. So super big names. We're going to be doing sky watches at night. Yeah, it's just going to be a good time. You know, it's going to be pretty intimate, pretty big crowd. I mean, I think we're pretty almost maxed out on tickets right now, but it's going to be pretty intimate. And yeah, if you want some one-on-one time with myself or some other people, you know, come. If you've around the Midwest and you're not going to make it to the Spaced Out Radio party, come to the Midwest. And also when I land on Thursday, so I fly into Chicago. The conference starts on Friday morning around 10 o'clock, I think is the first when it starts. But anyway, when I land on Thursday evening, I'm going straight to News Nation headquarters and doing an interview at News Nation headquarters in Chicago, then going to the conference. So that's another big exciting thing that's coming up, getting out there, you know, bringing in a whole new genre, you know, and people that may not have heard of myself and what we talk about here. So it's going to be exciting.
That is freaking awesome, man. Like I said, keep moving the bar, keep moving the needle, keep reaching out there and further and further and further until we can touch everybody. And yeah, that's good. I love to see that sort of motion coming from this end, and it just makes you want to get out there and do something. Which, by the way, here's what I want to do. That was for the radio audience. I want to put a call to action. I think I'll do this often because I just want to see how this works out. So in the radio audience, I don't know if you guys actually also do the YouTube thing, but if you ever find yourself on YouTube, I think most people are at some point. So just remember, next time you're on YouTube, come and stop by Spaced Out Radio. So you go youtube.com, in that little search box, you can type in the @ symbol, Spaced Out Radio. And if you hit enter, you'll see the channel for Spaced Out Radio come up. Click on the channel, click on any of the videos, I guess would be fine, truthfully. Watch one of them and then just say, hey, I came here from this radio station. It would be cool to see, you know, some of our radio audience kind of cross over into the YouTube world, because we have a lot of visual things that we do show it sometimes. And you can see the beautiful faces. Or as Dave says, maybe faces for radio, depending on how you want to look at it.
I work hard at it. I work hard.
But that would be awesome. Come in the chat and say, hey, yeah, normally I listen on this radio station. I think that would be pretty cool. As well as come and check me out on my channel, which is youtube.com as well. Same thing. Go in the search box, type in the @ symbol, and then Mr. Rob G, same way it's spelled on the screen, which is MISTERROB is in boy, G is in go, E. Mr. Rob G. Come and check out what we're doing over there as well. A lot of awesome conversations, a lot of tough conversations that move the needle. And that's what we do, what we will always continue to do. And yeah, that I just wanted to go ahead and do that because I want to see how many people actually may show up from the radio side. I would love to bridge these two worlds and talk to, maybe get everybody to do both. Maybe get YouTube people to go listen on the radio, get radio people to come check us out on YouTube. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Crossovers are great always, and like you said, if you're listening to the radio, you're missing a big part of the show. There's a lot of visual things that happen on here that, you hear us talking all the time, or there's a picture up on the screen that you may not see or whatever. If you're on the radio and you've been salivating trying to figure out what that was, that's your link to go back to it. And you can type in, spaced out radio and type in Drew Benke afterwards and find the many episodes that I've not only headlined, but I've actually helped co-host and been an after hours guy and stuff like that for a while here. So there's a lot of great content out there, including myself on Spaced Out Radio and many more. But I'm coming out of left field on this one. What do you think about the Pope passing on Easter Sunday?
I don't know. I mean that fact in itself. Okay, that fact in itself, yeah, kind of strange. I mean, I don't know. What are you thinking?
I don't know. Nostradamus said that. Not only did I see, I found recently that Nostradamus had some visions like that he put out a while back, that something about Trump, or I don't know how it was connected, and Pope Francis was going to be the last Pope. So it's just weird, the timing and everything. It's just got a weird feeling to it, man. It's got a biblical feeling to it, I would say. That's my bottom line. Everything happening right now has a very, I wouldn't say biblical. Let's take that back. It has a very emotional feeling to everything that happens now. It got my eye open, and things are just lining up to where it's just really crazy, So I don't know. It's big, I'm not. Go ahead.
Do you have any theories on just what sticks out as weird to you?
I don't know. I think we're at the end of a lot of religions. I think we're at the end of all religions. I think we're gonna, like I've said many times before, I think we're gonna come into a new understanding as a group, as a whole, as a collective. And I think it's gonna dissolve all religions and practices and things like that, because there's a time for them. I'm not saying that religion's a bad thing. I look at religions and spiritual practices more languages of the source, just like there's many languages and variations of humans and languages and how we speak and communicate around the world. But I mean, if you say love in English, or you say love in Spanish, or you say amor, in Spanish, it still means love. That vibration is still there. So that's the way I look at religions and spiritual practices. I look at them as languages or different ways of communicating basically the same thing, when it comes down to it. So, and that's not a general statement across the board for everything, all religions, but most things, I think at their core, they're good and they're good intentions and pure-hearted intentions at the core of most religions and practices. But I think, they're all trying to speak the same thing if you really listen to the message, the deep message. True
stuff. And let's see here. This has just been a great day, man. This has been a great day. I was looking forward to this show. I was looking forward to being back. I mean, I'm feeling it. I just filled in for Dave Thursday and Friday, but and it was, and I have a great time hanging out with Tim. Tim is a cool dude. We always have this crazy interaction. But I was like, I got to get my guy back to my guy, Drew Banky, man, our 3 guy, man. This is, how we get down, and this is what we do. So it's just cool to get one of these out the way. There wasn't any way that we weren't going to make this happen tonight and do this thing, man. Because this is what we do, man, and it always, I feel like the end of the day, it always brings us, I don't know if closer to where we want to go, but it moves us somewhere. We're moving somewhere, and I can at least say that. Here's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we are able to get you to speak your mind. I mean, we've been away for a few weeks, so if you have anything that you want to kind of say to the audience, go ahead and do that, and then we'll wrap this up so I can get into the news.
No, it's great to be back. Appreciate everybody, and looking to get back into this on a more regular basis, and get more bookings and everything. And I'll definitely be working on that from my end, and I know you're working on it from your end, and Dave and everything. So yeah, stick with us, guys, and we're going to keep building, man, and look out for the future. And I'm going to try to pin some people down at this conference that I'm at. So I'm not only going there for myself and promote myself, I'm also always trying to move Spaced Out Radio forward, because like I said before, I believe in Dave, I believe in you, and I believe in the whole thing. So, and I appreciate the audience and all the support. Follow me on all the socials at Drew Banky. Find me on YouTube and everything else. sacredjourneyswithin.com. If you want to get in touch and do a ceremony.
We're gonna kick some butt this year, man. This is we're early in. This is only month 4. We got 8 of them to go, and we've already elevated the game a little bit. It's scary to think about where we could be by the end of this year, and believe me, we're going places, and we just want everybody to come along with us. So if you're here for the first time, please consider hitting that like button, the subscribe button, notification bell, and coming back, because we do this 7 days a week. Let me at least say this before you go. We do this 7 days a week. So you got Monday through Friday, Dave Scott running the Woo Train, 9 p.m. Pacific till midnight. You got the after hour show running the show Saturdays and Sundays from 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. We are bringing in guests that you want to hear from. Also, you can let us know who you want to hear from by just email me. You can email me at afterhours@spacedoutradio.com. You can email me at Mr. Rob G, just like it's spelled on the screen, at gmail.com. Just email me. Just contact me. Let me know who you want on the show. We're working on some people that you've already asked for. We're setting the dates for those. And we just want to make sure that we bring the people that you want to see as well. So with that being said, Drew Banky, man, I appreciate you coming in, doing what you do for the show. Have an awesome time out there in Wisconsin. Kill it next week. We'll talk about it when you get back.
Sounds great, brother.
See y'all when I get back. Man. Take care. Obviously, guys, that's Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up. We are going home in style. We did unapologetically Mr. Rob G the other day because I had something on my mind. It was something that I needed to talk about. Now we're just going to jump right on into the UFO and weird news of the week to kind of just end it off the way that we like to do right here. So that's what's going to happen. Don't go anywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Yes, UFO and weird news of the week. I got a couple little ditties that we can go in, and no Diddy saying Diddy, but I'm talking about ditties, if you know what I mean. We got a couple of those right here for you as we talked about Area 51 earlier today, and we had the legend, the great one, the chosen one, Aviation Hall of Fame inductee Jim Goodall join us. who talked about Area 51 and how they used to go out there and see experimental craft, things of that nature. Well, as you know, recently there's been Area 51 has been back in the news, and I have the story here that I wanted to go over, which is Area 51 linked. Navy sailor reveals chilling details after seeing a UFO. And this is an article by Joe Harker. So it says a U.S. Navy officer has spoken out about spotting UFOs while working on a warship in the Pacific Ocean in 2023. Footage was released last week that claimed tic-tac shaped objects were spotted by the crew of the USS Jackson on the 15th of February 2023. One of the unidentified objects was supposedly seen exiting the water and then flying away without leaving any sort of exhaust at all. A man who witnessed it is Senior Chief Operations Specialist Alejandro Wiggins, who has spent 23 years in the U.S. Navy. He said his father had worked at Area 51. You know, that place in the middle of the desert where the U.S. keeps a bunch of secret stuff that may or may not have anything to do with aliens. Alejandro Wiggins was working on board of the USS Jackson in 2023 when the crew saw some strange tic-tac things. Anyhow, as for this sighting, 8 News Now reports that Wiggins was working as a radar specialist on the USS Jackson, and his job was to spot objects in the air around the ship. He said a bunch of people in the ship's combat information center saw strange objects on their screens and described the moment. He said, quote, "To my surprise, which is something I've never witnessed, was a light I noticed on the horizon. It looked as if it were surfacing out of the water and going up. Quote, we only saw the one, and then we see the second one. It was only when we zoomed out that we realized, holy crap, there's 2 more out here, a total of 4. The sailor said he didn't know exactly what he saw, predicting that whatever it is might become better known when he's much older and it's several decades down the line. I am skeptical myself as to what I saw that day, he said, of some of the former secrets which eventually became well known. Maybe one day I'll know what that was, and I'll be like 80 or 90 years old, and it'll be normalized. The stealth fighter or Area 51, at some point it'll be public, but then I'll be old. There have been all sorts of sightings over the years of things known as UFOs or UAPs, which are unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomena, some harder to verify than others. There have been documentaries claiming to have uncovered the truth about various mysterious sightings, while there are plenty of footage of weird goings-ons for aficionados to go through. Okay. We have a second story. This one just came kind of off the press here. I mean, we can fit this one in. Theories behind what goes on at fenced-off location known as England's Area 51. Interesting. Conspiracy theorists have been trying to uncover its operations for years. By Britt Jones, while Area 51 is a well-known location which brings a lot of conspiracy talk, people probably don't know that the UK seemingly has its own version too. Tinfoil hat wearers have been so passionate about Area 51 and their suspicions about aliens that they even held a mass storming of the facility in 2019. But the UK's version hasn't seen as much notoriety, despite racking up a cult following of people who believe it's being used for something strange. So, what really goes on behind this guarded exterior? RAF Rudlow Manor, formerly known as RAF Box, has been abandoned for the last 2 decades, and while it's hidden between the settlements of Box and Corsham in Wiltshire, it's got a reputation. Known as England's Area 51, The estate features an extensive network of tunnels and bunkers that have been used for a number of purposes over the years. It was during the Second World War that Rudlow Manor was used by RAF's operations group for filtering intelligence on enemy activity. It was also the former location of a civil defense division responsible for monitoring radiation hazards and nuclear risks at the height of the Cold War. Conspiracy theorists think the site was actually used to conduct research into UFOs and make contact with extraterrestrials. Perhaps the most well-known rumor is that it hides the remains of an alien spacecraft and its otherworldly crew. The theory was actually first put forward by American writer Dorothy Kilgallen, who claimed that the crash unfolded in the 1940s. She claimed that she was told about the incident by a high-ranking British official, although they wished to remain anonymous. While it's not confirmed that it was used for UFO investigations, with the Ministry of Defense, MOD, even coming out to deny claims, Sky History reported in 2007 that the declassified secret files released at the National Archives suggested that the site was used for this purpose in the 1950s. So the conspiracies were true. The publication then pointed out that even though it was no longer being in active use by the MOD, the site is still fenced off and under strict guard. This peculiar detail means the conspiracy surrounding the site will never truly die out. A big believer in the conspiracies is folklore enthusiast Neil Cartwright, who told Sky History, "We all suspected this was happening at Rudlow Manor, but they operated as a clandestine organization, unregulated for decades, never held accountable to the British taxpayer." I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this story in the coming years. A local wrote to the area, wrote, "I live in Corsham and some of my family might live right next to the CCC. They have an entrance in their garden, but it's blocked off by the Army. I have always thought what they don't want us to see. However, others noted it's allegedly a data center for the Navy containing more important strategic information." Yikes, that's something I want to look further into, actually. That sounds pretty like, hey, what are you guys doing there? Right? We talk about Area 51. Maybe they're doing stuff there still. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's like, we want you to think we are, so we're going to harass you when you come to the gate. Versus this place in England, which the United States government is probably involved in. With that being said, we want to go ahead and thank Jim Goodall, the legend, coming in, being the legend that he is, Aviation Hall of Fame legend, Jim Goodall, for giving us the time this evening and just hanging out with us, just being a really cool guy. The guy that he is, and I'm going to make sure that we go ahead and get out of here the right way. So, along with Jim Goodall, we want to definitely also thank Drew Banky with the After Hours Wrap Up. We want to thank Steve Stockton Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries as well. We want to also thank the man that you hear rocking out right here, Bumblefoot. He's the man that rocks us out each and every show. As he teaches us, he tells us to never say never again, because as we all know, yes, the phenomena is real. It's real, which means anything and everything beneath that is possible. If you enjoyed the show tonight, if you appreciate what we do here, make sure you hit the like button. Also, throw your horns up. Gosh, it has been a pleasure having you here at Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. What's that you ask? We own the night. This has been Copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure serving you as your host. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show, and to all you space travelers out there, yeah, this is not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, you can best believe as we go off air for the night, we're going to just keep doing this. We're going to keep getting together. We're going to keep making this thing move the needle, raising the bar, and we can't do it without you guys. So we'll see you next time. Take care. All right, we are clear. We are clear. Now I gotta fix this. Let me write a couple things down right here. Okay. All right. It's been awesome tonight. Thank you guys for coming in and you know allowing us to put on the show for you once again. We want to make sure that we gave Jim Goodall his flowers, man, because that's what it's all about, right? You know, and keep achieving what you're achieving out there, Jim. Keep raising the bar for everybody else. Keep making examples, setting examples for everybody else out there. You're never too old to accomplish something or achieve something. So as soon as someone says you're too old, then you stop listening to them and you still do what you do. Because I will never, even just in my personal life, there's no way that I will let age itself stop me from achieving anything. It'll have to be physical limitations that actually do that, and then maybe we'll have exoskeletons or some crazy stuff like that. So we'll still be able to even push through physical limitations at some point. But point is that keep achieving, keep trying to achieve. If you, there's a saying, if you shoot for the moon, then the worst that can happen is you will touch the sky. That is awesome, impactful, and that's what I'll leave you with as we get ready to take this break. I won't see you guys again probably for a couple weeks. You may see me on my channel though, so make sure you go over there and subscribe, youtube.com/@MrRobG. It would be appreciated. And yeah, until then, you guys, I will see you next time. We want retribution. That's how we'll close it out. Take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.